Hello, beautiful humans. Happy Sunday. In New Hampshire here, we are getting some incredibly cold weather, followed by a whole bunch of snow. So today we're supposed to get about 21 inches here in Hopkinton. And then tomorrow we're supposed to get around 9. So we'll be snowed in. The good news is that it has to warm up for it to snow, which means that we are going to come out of this like Arctic freeze dynamic that we have been in for the last 24 hours. So that's delicious. I just got inside from bringing in some firewood so that it is inside before all of the deliciousness starts. Right now, I'm just kind of looking at my windows. Right now, it is starting to snow. There's these little tiny itty bitty snowflakes. So we are headed for some deliciousness. Yesterday, I had a conversation with you guys around decision making and the energetics behind making decisions. And it felt really important to me to come back and have a conversation with you guys about the aftermath of that experience for me. And I'm probably going to do the thing where I make a short story long. So if you're not here for that, that's okay. And if you are, buckle up. I'm going to make the short story long. So I want to start by setting a little bit of context, and then I am going to talk to you about some concepts that feel really important for me to articulate because they're really potent for me right now. And one of the things that I can witness so clearly about myself is that when something is really potent inside of me, when I'm really working on it, that is the best time for me to speak about it. Waiting until it looks pretty and I can talk about it in hindsight is actually not the most potent expression of me, nor is it the way that I am authentically wired. So here we are. So I shared with you guys that I had gotten a download around the Christmas time, and it came in like a chunk and then little pieces, right? And I had that conversation with you guys yesterday. And it actually wasn't until later in the, well, hold on, let me pause. I just felt my energy go in two different directions. And just to kind of narrate the experience that I'm having, I felt my energy going in one direction. And the kind of highest expression of me was like, nope, you missed a spot, and brought me back. And so if you witnessed that little like thing I did, that was what was internally, that was the experience that I was having internally, just to kind of narrate the things that I'm experiencing, which I'm going to get to in a second. So I got the chunky thing, right? That was like, you are meant to live your life in full transparency, in real time, with as much detail and as much vulnerability as you possibly can. And when you do that, you will always get the next step. You will always get what you need, whether it is your own personal development, whether it's information about a client, whether it's information about your business, whether it's information about your children, whether it's information, whatever. I will always have what I need if I hold up my half the bargain. And my half the bargain was to live in full transparency in real time in a vulnerable way, demonstrating the way that I engage with spirit and energy and the way that I engage with the human experience, and that I'm meant to live it in real time. So here we are. So yesterday I came on and did a live about the energetics of making a decision, and that it's so much bigger than the decision that we're making, right? It's really about the energetics of the decision that we're making that anchor the energetics of where we're going. So sometimes it feels like we're making a decision when in fact we are making a pathway. It's like a whole bunch of energy opens in front of us depending upon what decision we make, right? And you guys witnessed me narrating a little bit about the way that I engage with spirit and the way that I receive information and the way that I engage with the human experience. Later in the day, I noticed that there were these emotions of insecurity, of inadequacy, of embarrassment, of vulnerability. It was like a little bit of a vulnerability hangover. And later in the afternoon, there was a dynamic where I shared with you guys that there was a decision that I made that was both really simple to make and like very clear for me, outside of the decision about living my life like this, right? But there was a decision that I made that impacted 2 other people. And at the highest level, one of those individuals came back and said some things. The details of that are pretty irrelevant. But what I noticed when I was witnessing myself is that the feedback that this individual shared, which for me, let me think about if I want to say this part right now. So often when we are confronted directly and invited to face ourselves in an area of growth, a natural response for many of us humans is to, instead of sitting with the personal responsibility of our actions, of our thought patterns, of our behavioral patterns, of our energetics, is to try and shift the blame onto somebody else, right? And that was the dynamic that was playing out for me yesterday. So with that shift, that is part of the pattern that I had set a boundary around. With that shift, there was a lot of projection and there was a lot of shifting the blame. And I was very easily able to recognize what was mine, what wasn't mine, what was my responsibility to hold, what was not my responsibility to hold. But I witnessed myself in that experience, right? It was like creating a sense of separation and being able to witness myself. And I noticed that I started to have these thought patterns and I was just witnessing them coming through. And it was literally like all of the people who've ever not enjoyed the way that I move through the world. It was like a laundry list. It was like my mind was like, oh, since we're on the topic, did you want me to name and bring up every single person who has not enjoyed the way that you move through the world and shared that with you, either personally or publicly? And I was like, I guess we're doing this, mind, right? And so mind was like, and then there was this, and do you remember when, right? My mind had this laundry list of all of the people, dynamics, situations who have said to me, the authentic way that you move through the world, I don't like. And I'm going to tell you that, which is fine, right? My mind is doing that. And I could witness it happening and I was like, what are we doing? What is happening? Why are we engaging like this, mind? And so I sat in that space. And for those of you who are inside of All of Me or who took the workshop More Than This Moment, was it in More Than This Moment or was it in A Moment Between Heartbeats is actually where I talked about this concept. That so often when we are experiencing something, we want to run and jump through it, right? Like we want to be here or we want to be there, but we don't really like the in-between. So many of us want to run and jump through transitions. It's like, I want to be married or I want to be divorced. I want to be in a relationship or I want to be single. I want to be employed or I want to be at a new job. I want to be living in this state, or I want to be living in that state. But the transition period for so many of us can be really uncomfortable. And I've talked for a while about not running and jumping through that space, right? But to actually be in that space and to slow down and to walk through it. And inside of the workshop, Moment Between Heartbeats, I started speaking about the concept of actually just stopping, right? So not running and jumping through a transition, not walking, but actually just allowing yourself to sit in and be with what is here without a desire to be somewhere else, right? And so I noticed my mind being an absolute jerk. Okay, my mind was a jerk last night to me. And I was like, I don't really like what you're doing here. But considering you're doing it, how about if I sit in it? Now, it was the last thing that I really wanted to do, and also the thing that I wanted to do. There was a massive amount of body agitation that went with the experience that I was having in my mind, right? So my mind was mind chattering. It was like, and then this one time when you were 7, and do you remember when you were 21? And do you remember last summer? And do you remember also last summer? And do you remember? I don't probably need to keep going. You guys get the idea. Your mind has probably done something similar to you at some point in your life. And it's not comfortable. So it wasn't just the cognitive experience, the mind-based experience. There was also a body-based experience that I was having. It was very overwhelming. It was incredibly agitating to my system, where it was like, I want to get away from this. Have you guys ever had that kind of experience where like you want to crawl out of your own skin so badly that you're like, how do I get away from this? How do I get away from this? And the desire to get away from it was the bells and whistles, like, you know, on your car. Like if you're one of those people that waits till your idiot light comes on before you like check your oil, track these things, right? So this is like an idiot light for my body that was like, wah, hello, right? Those bells and whistles going off are telling me there is something here for you. You should probably tune in. Start to notice what's happening inside the body. It's like when your light goes off in your car and is like, try changing your oil before this blows up in your face, right? It's like that. So instead of walking through the sensation and the thought patterns, and without running through, I actually just sat and paused in it. And as I sat there, it landed, which has been my experience with this kind of engagement inside of myself and this form of personal development. So in that space where I was not walking through it, where I was not running and jumping through the transition, I was actually just sitting deeply in the depths of the sensations that were happening inside of my body and the experience that was happening inside of my mind and all of the emotions that were bubbling up and coming up with the experience, right? And in that space, I recognized that I had created a story at some point in my life that is held in my nervous system that said, if I put myself out there in a more authentic way, that there will be more people who don't like me and who don't like the way that I move through the world. It's a reasonable story to have created, right? Like, you're probably sitting here being like, yeah. I mean, if 3% or 10% of any given population doesn't enjoy the way that you move through the world and is going to share that with you, and you grow the population, you are also growing the number of people who won't enjoy the way that you move through the world. Like, this is just math, right? Like the maths with that story. Except for it's just a story. That could happen. It also might not. The more that I own who I am, the more that I like who I am, the more that I understand who I am. It means that the less uncomfortable I am with who I am and my authenticity. So energetically, I have been putting out there like, oh, I'm not really sure about who I am. There's a level of discomfort that I have with who I am. This may resonate for you. You might be like, I kind of know who I am. I do kind of know what I am. But I've also been told on repeat by society that there's one way I should move through the world, or there's like a select number of ways that I should move through the world. And I don't really fit in all of those boxes. I fit in some, but not others, and right? So energetically, right? So if we rewind to yesterday's conversation and other conversations I've had with you guys, law of attraction, right? If I am wobbly on owning my authentic self fully, I can expect to attract back experiences, people, dynamics, situations that would mirror that for me to see. But if I know who I am, like who I am, pick who I am, deepen into who I am, then energetically, that's a very different frequency. And guess what I'm going to attract back, right? So in theory, the story that I created in my mind and held in my nervous system that said, the more that I put myself out there in the authentic expression of me, the more people will communicate to me that they don't like the truth of who I am. But that is just a story. It's just a story. And my willingness to pause in the body agitation, in the mind-based bullshit that was happening, and really witness it and go, is that true? Like, that's a truth. But is that the truth? Could you come up with another truth? The other truth would be the one that I just shared with you, right? The reality is that it doesn't much matter. Because I have to remember that the version of me right now is attracting my current experience, and the version of me in the future, or that I'm in the process of stepping into and evolving into, will attract other things. And I can handle whatever it is that I'm attracting, because that is, by definition, life. So it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter which one is the truth. Like, maybe more people will tell me that they don't like the way that I move through the world. Maybe they won't. But what I do know that is not wobbly and is not a maybe for me, but it's a yeah, is that I'll be able to handle what comes to me. That I know. I feel that deep in my being. And so last night, my willingness to sit in that space of the agitation, of the narrative, of the experience, feel it, be with it, challenge it, was my ability to move through it. Now, yesterday I came on and I have been dipping my toes in the water inside of all of me about bringing all of me. And I did that some here with you guys yesterday. So my response that I had with the narrative and the agitation of the body was in response to me being more vulnerable in a bigger group of people that isn't like my safe space, right? So the people inside of all of me, even if they don't understand something that I'm doing, even if they don't understand me, they're probably not going to be mean. But when I share more of me out here, I am opening myself up to a space that is less safe for me, potentially, right? Again, it comes back to what story we're holding, law of attraction. So my response last night was an issue of my nervous system trying to bring me back into my zone of tolerance. if my mind feeds me this mind chatter and my body has this massive agitation, I may spiral back into my zone of tolerance, or where I am used to functioning. Not where I cognitively want to function, but where I have been, where my nervous system is comfortable, where I have been functioning as a human. And one of the ways that my nervous system is going to try and get me to go back into my zone of tolerance, because it knows what to expect when I am that version of me, and it doesn't know what to expect when I'm this new version of me that I'm stepping into. So my nervous system wants to pull me back into my zone of tolerance. That was the way that my nervous system was trying to bring me into my zone of tolerance. My ability to sit in that space and be with what was there and challenge the stories that were occurring inside of my nervous system and inside of my mind was my ability to move my zone of tolerance, to stretch my capacity inside my nervous system, to bring more of me into the world. And so my ability to witness that last night was hilarious to me, right? I was like, I get it. My mind is feeding me all of this bullshit, trying to get me to spiral back into my normal zone of tolerance. And I have a choice point. And my choice point has everything to do with my ability to witness myself in the experience that I'm having, and my ability to resource my nervous system so that I can actually feel all of the things, all of the body-based sensations that were occurring that were connected to the narratives. Now, I will tell you, I actually stopped listening to the narratives and stayed with the body and the sensations that were happening here. That's actually how we digest energy and allow the narrative to change. The narratives that I created that said that the more people who were exposed to the authentic expression of me would mean more people not liking me and sharing that with me. I created that narrative, that story, which is just a story, when I was one frequency, when I was one expression of me. I am no longer that expression of me. So my ability to feel the body-based sensations that were occurring inside of my body, allow them to digest, and then allow a new narrative to come in, which is the narrative that I just shared with you guys. That narrative is attached to this frequency. The other narrative was attached to a prior frequency that I embodied. So letting go of or releasing the narrative is not bypassing, because you create a narrative at various different frequencies, right? So if there was a ladder of frequency and I'm down here, a narrative that I'm going to create at this frequency is going to be different than a narrative that I'm going to create at this frequency, given the same experience. Okay? It is not bypassing for me to disconnect from the narrative that I created at this frequency if I'm now functioning at this frequency, and to allow the narrative from this frequency to come on into my reality. So last night I'm staying with the body, releasing the narrative. New narrative comes in, witness myself in the experience, right? We're going to pause here and we're going to rewind a little bit. Remember how I told you yesterday that I was told in the little runk that came in at the end of December that if I did the thing, if I lived my life in transparency, in a vulnerable way, articulating the way that I engage with spirit, the way that I engage with energetics, and the way that I engage with the human experience, that I would always get everything that I needed. Now, I want to be really clear that what I think I need and what I need could be two very different things. Okay? So I just want to notice that my mind, the egoic part of me is like, do you know what I need? Right? And my soul's like, I don't know if you need that. Right? I think you actually need whatever you're going to get. This is the surrender piece, lady. So when I say I will get everything I need, it might not be what I want. but it might be way more. Okay? So I get through that whole experience last night. I did the thing that I said I was going to do. And when I got the message to make a video yesterday, I did that thing, right? I made the video talking about the thing that feels scary for me to talk about. My system naturally tried to bring me back into my zone of tolerance. I worked through that. I navigated through that by feeling the feelings, pausing in the space, resourcing my nervous system, allowing a new narrative to come in, witnessing myself in the experience, knowing what it was, being able to lead myself through the experience without being so overwhelmed that I disassociated or disconnected from the experience that I was having, right? I want to make sure you understood all those steps. And then, within moments of completing that process inside of myself, I had one of the coolest experiences of my life. And I'm not going to go into all of the details of it because there are some pieces that I'm not quite ready to talk about, not because it feels too vulnerable, but because I am aware that I do not have really solidly a way to articulate one part of the experience that I had. So I can articulate a lot of it. But there is one piece that feels really important that I'm still waiting for it to like fully land and be able to come up into mind in a way that I could articulate it. So I'm not going to go into the details of it. But what I'm going to tell you is that I went through and led myself through an experience last night that blew my fucking mind. Blew my mind. At some point, I am going to come back and talk about this experience, but I'm going to talk about it inside of all of me first, because that is a safer space and I will be able to figure out what's wobbly for me. But that experience will literally change the trajectory of my life and of many other people's lives. Because what I was taught how to do in spirit, in energy, blew my fucking mind. It blew my mind. Like in a way that there are no English words. Like there are no English words, but I'm hoping that you can feel the magnitude of the experience that I had. And then as I was kind of coming out of the experience, and it took me a while because there was two pretty significant parts to the experience. And about an hour and a half later, I was able to really have my system come down and have enough safety inside of my system. And then all of a sudden, all of the words for what I had experienced and how to teach it, coach it, lead somebody through it, all came in. With the exception of this one piece that I can feel, that feels super important. And I know that my body understands it, but my mind actually doesn't have the narrative. And that piece feels super important before I go doing this. But what I will tell you is that, let me think about, what I will tell you is that I learned how to work with and calibrate to future versions of me in a way that is so much more simple and profound than I've ever been able to do before. And so I had the experience of calibrating to a version of me that I would have told you was way out in the future. And I'm not gonna articulate all the details because I want to tell that story in a particular way because I want you to experience it in a particular way. But what I will tell you is that it was the singular most profound experience of my life. Without a question. Zero doubt. That is what I got because I was willing to hold up my half of the deal, which was to live my life in full transparency and articulate in a vulnerable way the uniqueness of how I engage with spirit and energetics, and to share that in real time. And I was told that I would get everything that I needed. Guys, the level of trust that I have inside of myself and with God, Mother Nature, Source, the universe, divine, however it is that you say that, for me, they're the same thing, is unwavering. And as I connected with the future version of me in a way that I have never connected with before and never calibrated to before, I thought I understood how to do it. This is like, I was like, that was like preschool, what I was experiencing before. And this was like way past some PhD. I don't know. But that experience, what I was led through and taught last night, was so profound. And it was because I was in feminine energetics where I was allowing. Do you remember yesterday when I said that we do not control the timing, but we control being the version of us that is a frequency match for when the timing is right? And I do want to say, like, it's really important to me to pause right here and say, Melanie Ann Lair is the mentor who I work with, and she has taught me so much about energetics. She will introduce a concept, and then I integrate the concept and make sense out of the concept and make the concept work for me. But the introduction of that frequency from her is life-changing for me. And so I just want to, like, it's really important from an integrity standpoint for me to honor where some of these concepts that I contemplate and engage with, and there's an evolution to, that some of them are coming just from my connection to spirit, and some of them are coming from another human and then my connection with spirit. So one of the things that Melanie was recently talking about was the feminine energetics about allowing, right? And that is something that I've heard her speak on multiple ways in multiple different spaces and places. But it landed differently for me because I'm a different version of me, because I've evolved as I have moved through my human experience. So me yesterday is going to be different than me 2 months ago, 6 months ago, 10 months ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. You get the idea. So she was recently talking about how in feminine energetics, it's about the allowing, right? And not controlling, which is energetics that I've been working on for a while. Because it turns out I really like control. Yeah, turns out that. So I want to give you an example that will help make this make sense. So feminine energetics are about allowing, but recognizing that we are not in control, that it is a multifaceted experience of timing, right? So if you think about something that happens in nature, like a wildfire, okay? all of the conditions have to be right to have a wildfire. It's not just one thing. It's all of the things. It's everything. Right? It's not like, with a more masculine approach, it is like, I did this and this was the result. It's not like that with feminine energetics. It's like, this is happening, and as a result, that happened. But there's all these parts that are happening. It's not just like one thing happened, and as a result, this thing happened. Right? Like, that's not how a wildfire happens. That's not how a tornado happens. That's not how a rainstorm happens. That's not how a snowstorm happens, right? Like, the conditions have to be the conditions in order for it all to work. And it's not just like one thing, right? So like right now it is snowing. If the temperature were warmer, it would be raining. See? Like, it's a multifaceted thing. Like, the clouds have to precipitate. The temperature has to be the temperature. There's multiple things that go into it snowing versus raining versus sleeting versus nothing. It's a lot of things. There were a lot of things that happened yesterday. Many of which I don't have any control over. I do have control over me. I have control over how focused I am on my personal development and who I want to be. How much time, energy, bandwidth, space I'm going to give myself. Whether or not I do the thing that I'm receiving as a download. What I didn't have control over, and was part of this happening in the energy, the feminine energetics, right, of me having this really profound experience last night, was that I had received a message that a different mentor of mine, who I worked more closely with in the past and am still in connection with, but not in the depth that I was a couple of years ago. I'd gotten a message that that individual was going to be reaching out to me. And I was like, okay. Well, that individual reached out to me last night. Okay. And I had gotten the message that they were going to reach out to me, and there was a frequency inside of them that I needed in order to unlock something. Well, I can't reach out to that individual because the message was they will reach out to you. It's about timing. Well, last night, now I have not heard from this person since Christmas Day. And yesterday, I got a message saying Happy New Year. And I was like, it's like the 20-something of January. Like, this is funny. And I said, why are you reaching out to me today? And he said, well, I meant to send you this a long time ago, but I figured today was better than never. Okay. There was a song that I was listening to. I'm going to rewind for a second. Within 3 minutes of receiving that message, I had that experience. Okay. So whatever frequency he was embodying that I needed to calibrate to in order to have that experience, it was 3 minutes, maybe, between that and the beginning of the experience that I had. And we literally went back probably 2-3 messages. It wasn't like we had this full-on conversation. So, and in a minute, we're going to go through all the things so that you can see what I'm talking about with feminine energetics. But there was a song that yesterday morning, when I was sitting on the fire couch, fire gazing, because it was the butt-ass crack of dawn, and I wanted to sleep late, but it wasn't going to happen, and I was up at like 4 something, and at one point, I looked on Instagram, and I had a friend who posted a photo, and I thought that there were 2 photos. So I went like this, and a reel came up, and I was like, wait, I was looking at my friend's photo. The reel came up. I don't even know that I visually looked at it, but I could hear a song playing as part of the reel. And I felt an activation in my body that was undeniable. I was like, ha, what was that? So I looked at the name of the song that was on the reel. Again, I can't even tell you what the reel was. But the song, I was like, never heard this song before, but I feel it. I feel some activation. So I look up the song and I'm listening to it. And as I look up the name of the song and the artist, I feel an even more intense energy moving through me. And I was like, that's there. I noticed it. Last night, I had this desire, and this happens to me. This is my neurodivergence coming out, by the way. I had the urge to listen to this song on repeat. And when I mean on repeat, I mean no other song. I literally just put on the same song and loop it for hours. It's a thing that happens for me sometimes. That was what was happening last night. So I'm literally listening to this song on repeat, having the experience of leading myself through the agitation, right? My old mentor reaches out and says, Happy New Year. We have 2 or 3 text exchange. The song is playing in the background. That morning I had listened to something from my other mentor. I had had the experience of being more vulnerable on Facebook. Can you see all the pieces? I don't control all of that. That's the spot where you surrender. That's the spot where you're like, this is bigger than me. I don't need to try and force and control. This is the spot where you allow. This is the feminine energetics where you sit back and trust, and that you let go of your need to control. Because it's like Mother Nature. It's like the earth. It's not just you. It's like all the pieces. You control your piece. And whether or not you're a frequency match for when all the other pieces happen, right? But there were other pieces that I could go into, but there are probably 10 pieces that I could easily name. I just named some of them for you that all culminated for me to have the experience that I had last night. Can you see how ridiculous it would be for me to sit here and say, well, I controlled it. I did it. Nope. Nope. I was in charge of me. I was in charge of whether or not I had done the work to be a frequency match for when the timing and all the pieces were ready. But I don't control all the pieces. That's way above my pay grade, right? Like way above my pay grade. And do you know how much freedom and ease comes with recognizing that it is above your pay grade? You do not need to control this. Like, you do not need to control it. Okay, you can't control this. Okay, you cannot control this. It's like saying you're going to control the weather. You're not going to. You do not need to control this. You can't. It's not how it works. But you can control you. Your commitment to working on you, how you do and do not engage with yourself, how you do and do not engage with personal development, how you do and do not engage with energetics, where you choose to lean, where you choose to follow activation. Do you know how many choice points I have talked about over the past 2 days where, like, if I just made one different choice, this would be different right now? That's what I'm in charge of, is being able to hear and feel inside of me what is right for me and follow it, to notice the activation. That song that played on repeat last night, when it went brrr through my energy body, there was a choice point there. I didn't have to look down and say, who's the artist? What's the song? Never heard it before, but I feel it and I know it. Never heard it before. But my soul, my being, the essence of me knows it. The sensation that came up and through me was undeniable. The choice point was, did I follow this? Or was I like, well, that was weird, and go back to sipping my coffee? That's the thing. It's in those little details. It's like I followed the thing. I looked up the song. I listened to it. When my system was like, that's all I want to listen to. Put it on repeat. Loop it, baby. Let's just listen to that MFer like 17 million times. Anybody else in my reality would be like, can we stop? Can we stop with the song? There was no part of me that was going to stop with the song. Those are all choice points. The moment that I was sitting on the couch, like I could have been cleaning. I was choosing to sit in the frequency of the divine feminine to allow this experience to evolve, not knowing that there was an experience even coming, but being able to feel it and sense that there was something for me. And then the choice point of the song, right? So I could have been cleaning. I chose not to clean. When the song came up and the came through me, I didn't have to look. I didn't have to look up the name. I didn't have to listen to the song. I didn't have to put it on repeat. It didn't have to be on my Spotify list. Those are the choice points. That's alignment. That's my job. That's the frequency match. That's what I have control over. I do not have control over all the things. Okay, now I want to tell you something. I had someone in my reality tell me about this artist months ago. And I felt a that went through my system. And I said to myself, I gotta look him up. I've never heard of him before. There was energy there. There was something there for me. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't follow the thing, which is why I wasn't a frequency match. Like what I got last night, I needed to be this version of me. Do you know how irresponsible it would be for me to have received what I received last night if I was not this version of me? If I was the version that was like, well, I felt a thing and I thought I should follow it, but I didn't. Not a frequency match. Can you see that? Not a frequency match. Now I can sit here and I can make excuses, right? I can be like, well, I was going to follow it. It is somewhere on a mental to-do list that I was going to follow that energy thread and I was going to look up the artist. But the long and short of it is it was like 4 months ago. I haven't once looked up the artist's name. I haven't listened to him. But I did yesterday. The version of me who is responsible enough and has the capacity to be able to do what I did last night in spirit is the version of me who feels something and without question follows it. I wasn't that version of me 4 months ago. But now I have real clarity about why I wasn't ready to receive it. I have real clarity around the next time I hear the future calling me, what it sounds like, what it feels like, how I experience it, what I'm going to do, right? Or I'm going to be able to witness that I'm not ready. But my experience of it will be different, right? So let's say with this awareness that I have today, if I were to rewind time, I go back 4 months. My girlfriend says to me something about this artist. I don't know the name. Never heard him before. I feel a thing. Let's say I'm not actually ready to follow it. Now I have the awareness that I'm not ready to follow it. So instead of being like, that's something I should do, and then I forget about it, I'm like, that's something I should do, and then I notice the resistance to it. right? So let's say, does that make sense? Right? So if I notice the resistance, the procrastination, the aversion, the I just didn't do it, then from that place of awareness, I can say, there's something here and you're not quite evolved enough to be with it. But witnessing that is going to do something for me. It's a step up compared to just blink, it goes out of my reality, right? So now, let's say in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, however long, I have something come through my system. I recognize that it is the future calling me because I know what it feels like. I know what it sounds like. I know how the experience is. Now, mind you, I'm making this very simple. There are lots of ways that I experience this, the future calling me. But this example, we're just going to stay with one singular example, right? Now, let's say I feel this like, I feel the future calling me, but I'm noticing that it's not a solid yes. My awareness of that, my ability to witness myself in it and be like, I know what all of this is. It means that the future is calling you and you're not quite ready. You are not evolved in something from a frequency standpoint. Did you want to notice that? Now noticing it is going to do something for me. Me noticing it is going to be like, there's an energy thread I could follow. So if I'm not ready to follow the energy thread, I can follow the energy thread of what I need to do to be ready to follow the energy thread. Do you know what I mean? The version of me who was ready to receive the magnitude of what I received last night is not the version of me who wouldn't follow the thing that came through me 4 months ago. Can you see that? Like, sometimes we kick and scream and we're like, well, I should have gotten it 4 months ago. No. No. No way. No way. Me 4 months ago wouldn't have been able to handle the experience that I had last night. I wouldn't have been able to lead myself through it, and I wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So what would be the point? Do you understand feminine energetics? Like, so often we want to control. It's like, how do I force this? Well, if I'd forced this 4 months ago, sitting here right now, I know I could not handle it. 4 months ago, I couldn't have handled it. I needed to go through processes that I have gone through over the past 4 months to be this version of me. Because it was at the upper limit of my capacity to engage with spirit last night. And to be able to bring the experience that I had into a space that I could do something with it. And at some point I will talk about in a lot of detail what that experience was and how I experienced recognizing that I was at the upper limit of my capacity to handle it and to be with it. And I actually, that conversation is a really important one to me. And so at some point, I'll make a long story way longer. And I will explain that experience to you guys. But again, there's a piece that's still, I can feel it. I feel it. But I can't articulate this one aspect. And I know that I need to be able to articulate the whole thing. So, I wanted to pop on. And I almost popped on last night, but I was too tired by the time I got done everything. I wanted to pop on and talk to you about this. Because you guys got to see what I presented about yesterday. What I spoke about yesterday. When I say presented, I mean all of me, right? And it's so important for you to see the follow-up. I spoke yesterday about getting this download that was like, do the thing. Be vulnerable. Do it in real time. Allow the world to understand the unique way that you engage with energy, with spirit, and with the human experience. And you will get everything you need. You will always get the next whatever. So if I didn't come back and tell you that it was hours later, hours, I did the thing, and within hours, I got something that will change my life and the lives of many people, many people. The technique that I just went through was led through how to teach. This is not a small thing. And I want you to see like the time frame. It's not like I did the thing and then 17 years later, I got the thing and I'm having a hard time connecting these. It was literally like ding, 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 ding. If you are somebody who follows me on social media, I want you to notice the blog that I wrote yesterday. Okay? I wrote that before I had this experience. But my being already knew that I was going to have this experience. Reread that blog post. And you're going to be like, I already knew. I already knew what I was going to go through last night when it was yesterday morning. Because time and space don't work like that. And the future version of me was already talking to me, which is coming through in my blog post. Do you know how many times I look back at blog posts and I laugh and I'm like, I thought I knew what that meant when I wrote it, but I didn't. Now I understand what that means. Do you know how many experiences of that I had yesterday? There were things that I was like, looking at a piece of paper, right? Like, this happened within minutes. This happened within hours. This happened within... How does it happen this fast? How does it happen this fast? It happens this fast when you're a frequency match for it. There's a huge difference between thinking about these concepts and embodying them. And I am not trying to minimize the thinking part, because as part of the download that I got yesterday, I understand the absolute importance of the part where we get cognitive cerebral buy-in to create safety for ourselves. It's one of the ways that we engage our divine masculine to create safety for the feminine to be able to surrender and allow. So I am not trying to minimize the cognitive cerebral part, but we also have to get past just the cognitive cerebral part. We got to get into the embodied part. Right now, what I'm doing is narrating what the embodiment part looks like. For those of you inside of All of Me, you know what the cognitive teaching looks like because we've been doing it, right? We started the All of Me group coaching in August. And you have been pretty much fire hydranted with content. What I will say is that there are some people inside of All of Me that are like, I am dying. I'm choking on your content, lady. Like, it's more than I can digest right now. What do I do with it? That's the cognitive cerebral part. Right now, I am showing you the embodiment part. And I've been showing you that as part of All of Me as well, right? Like, I'm teaching the concepts, but I'm also showing you where I'm embodying it and what it looks like. I have accessed enough safety inside of myself to let you into that process more deeply, to narrate it and articulate it and show you the intricate details of it in a way that might make it easier for you to embody also. And some of you will look at the way that I'm doing this and be like, nope, that wouldn't work for me. But you know what would? It might stimulate or activate something inside of you. And some of you will be like, yes. And some of you will be like, no. And I want you to listen to whatever comes up. But you're going to get to watch what this looks like in real time when we go from cognitively understanding a concept to embodying it. And when I say embody, I mean the energetics. Okay? Look how rapid it was. This is what I thought collapsing time was. This is the thing that I was so excited to teach people in the past, was how to do this right here, the piece where you moved from a cognitive cerebral understanding to an embodiment, an energetic embodiment, which includes the physical nervous system, all the things, right? But an energetic embodiment. Remember how I was like, that was preschool? This is what I have been so excited to teach people. And now it feels like preschool. Now it feels like, oh my God, you guys, you know what's coming? That's what it feels like. So it felt really important to me. Because this is my half the bargain, that I'm going to do this, that I'm going to show you all of this, that I'm going to talk about the details of it, that I'm going to live it in real time in as much transparency as I'm possibly capable of doing. But it also felt really important from the cognitive cerebral energetic frequency calibration standpoint to have this conversation with you guys. These are the kinds of conversations that I want to have. These are the kinds of conversations that I'm having inside of all of me. These are the kind of conversations that I have with myself. These are the kind of conversations that I have with the people who are closest to me. These are the kind of conversations that light me up, that help me remember what it means to be alive, what it means to be me, what it means to be this frequency. I love these conversations. I love this work. Like, deeply love this work. So, on that note, I'm going to go drink some water, and I'm going to put my bare feet on that frigid earth before it gets any colder or any snowier. You are invited to the first module of the workshop, The Art of Being Alive, that is starting today at 4:30. That is a 12-module workshop, and the first module is going to be today at 4:30. So if you would like to come to that, if you are registered for our newsletter, you have got the Zoom link inside of your email somewhere. I think we sent that out on Friday, but it could be any time. You might not want to listen to me. Time is wonky for me right now, quite clearly. But I will post the Zoom link for anybody who watches this and wants to attend the first module. In the first module of The Art of Being Alive, I'm going to go over the overarching concept. Even if you do not come to the other 11 modules inside of it, I would highly encourage you to come to the first one, because you will get so much out of the overarching concept. And then when you are ready, there is more. So I'll post the Zoom link for today's call into the description or the comment section on this video. If you are listening to this and you're like, I have a girlfriend, I have a sibling, I have a parent, I have a whatever who needs to hear this, please share it with them. And if you have somebody in your reality who you're like, I think that they need to be at the call of The Art of Being Alive, please invite them. Have a beautiful day.